Person of Dastaka, the craft NGO she helped found. She has been working with the grassroots artisans all over India for the past 45 years. Many of her most rewarding projects involve creating new livelihood avenues through craft for pastoral and marginalized rural communities, bonded labor in Bihar, displaced villages in Ranthambore, tribals in Odisha and Karnataka, victims of insurgency in Kashmir, and so on. She's a recipient of numerous awards for her work in craft sector, including the Padma Shri in 2012, and the first Asian to receive the Aid to Artisans Preservation of Craft Award in New York. Vipin sir, we would request you to felicitate her. Everybody, please give a huge round of applause to ma'am. Ma'am, I would request you to stay on stage for the fireside chat. I would now like to invite our distinguished guests for the session. I invite Ms. Archana Shah, founder Bandage, who will be hosting this conversation. I would also invite on stage Mr. Ambuj Narayan, CEO Taneira. This freewheeling chat will delve into the rich heritage and promising future of handlooms in India, ensuring its enduring legacy for generations to come. I hand over the session to you, Ms. Shah.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me for a very meaningful conversation with Laila Tayabji. We just heard a lot about her. I'm a great admirer of Laila. She's the chairperson of Dastakar, and she Ambuj Narayan, Mr. Narayan, and he's the CEO of Taneira, an ethnic women's wear label from the Tatars. So I begin today's conversation with Laila. In some ways, Laila ji and I started working in Kutch at a very similar time. This is almost over 40 years ago. And over the years, we have seen a great transformation that has happened in the lives of artisans in Kutch. And, you know, in the 1980s, Kutch was going through this. Kutch was like any other region that we see in the country today. It was changing times. Markets were flooded with different kinds of products for the rural communities. Those communities which were the traditional patrons of the crafts had stopped wearing these things. So there was a time of flux. And in recent times, one hears people talk about that, you know, the artisans in Kutch have done very well. Of course, there are many reasons for this. And so I would like Laila ji to share with us why, what has brought about this kind of change in Kutch.
Well, thank you, Archana. I refuse to be Laila ji. I have never heard you call me that in all these years. So, I mean, I'm looking around to see who you were addressing. Yes, Kutch was where I started my crafty journey now over 45 years ago. I'm a little ahead of her, actually. And it's true that at that time, first of all, when I was asked to go to Kutch as visiting designer for Gurjari in 78, I think it was, people in Delhi asked me, where are you going? Where's Kutch? Is it in Africa? And today, of course, Kutch is known by everybody as a kind of thriving hub of very vibrant craft. Tour groups come from all over the world to visit Kutch and go to the craft villages. And many, yes, of the artisans are doing very successful business. Why is that? What makes Kutch different from, say, Bihar or UP or Bengal or many other places where there are also wonderful crafts? And I think there are a whole lot of differences. One is, of course, that the crafts in Kutch, even when I first went there, my role was to document the crafts and to sort of develop them for an urban market. Gurjari had just sort of started. It was that the Kutchis made craft for themselves. All the crafts still had quite a strong base of things that they made for each other. So they were not dependent on an external market, and they were not dependent on the kind of middlemen who existed at that time, either in the government emporiums or these sort of small middlemen who were traders who were selling cheap, tacky stuff at very low prices in the urban market. You have to think that the lifestyle stores hadn't started, the big emporia, the shopping malls hadn't started. Exporters were still very small in number coming to India. So the craft was still alive and quite vibrant, although the product was not suitable for an urban market. Then what happened was, as often happens, something terrible happens and it turns out to have a silver lining. In 2001, there was a terrible earthquake in Kutch, and many lives and livelihoods were destroyed totally, and villages were just rubble. And a lot of money came into Kutch. But it was quite difficult. I mean, people, big companies, international agencies came and they built houses and they gave food and relief and medicines. But then what? And I think the Kutchis, who were artisan communities, realized that actually their biggest strength was in their hands. Because if you have a skill, and obviously the skill has to be both in your head and your hands, but it has to be a living skill, they realized that that was the quickest way to recuperate and build their lives again. I remember Ismail Bhai, the now very, very famous Ajak printer. He's become a professor and a doctor of, I don't know what it is in England, but at that time he was still a youngish man. And I remember he saying to me that, you know, we don't want charity, we don't want doles. Give us something so that we can use the strength of our hands and rebuild our lives. And that's literally what happened. And they, Daskar, like other organizations, we collected quite a lot of money and we held exhibitions of the products that the Kutchi craftspeople very quickly started making again. And so that was something that they really realized that it is very useful to have a skill which is yours, which belongs to you, which has your signature. And if you use it well, that can be the means to sustainability and self-respect. The thing that happened after that, again as a result of the earthquake, was that Judy Frater, a young American woman, arrived in Kutch to do research and then decided to stay on. She lived in Kutch, I think, for 25 years or more. And she set up not only Kala Raksha, which she did actually along with Dastakar, but she had the idea of setting up a kind of design school for craftspeople. And that was really something completely revolutionary at the time. And she had young Kutchi artisans coming. They were taught the basics of design, of costing, of pricing, of marketing and visual merchandising, all the things we heard about this morning from Sutha. And that was really the key to craftspeople realizing that they do not always need professional inputs from the urban city. Otherwise, a lot of craftspeople feel that they've been brainwashed into thinking that all of us who come from the city with solutions for them are wiser and better and more professional, and that we are kind of magic wand, that if they listen to us, things will change. But actually they realized that what they were being taught were things that they knew themselves, but it was being put into a vocabulary with which they could interact with designers and with buyers from abroad. So I think these two things had a very big catalytic effect. But at the base of it, I think is the fact that people in Kutch, their peers, other people in the villages, the community, even the government there, respects them. They think that craft is a worthwhile, honorable profession, and that it's a profession, and that a craftsperson is a professional. And they don't treat them the way that certainly in UP and in Bihar and elsewhere in India, where they think of the craftsperson as someone who's practicing craft only because he has no other alternative. And I think that has made craftspeople in Kutch really dynamic.
Sorry. Yeah, does it work? Okay. Maybe I go over to Mr. Narayan, and well, it would be interesting to hear your journey with Tanera, and more so I would say the weaver shalas, which I found as a very interesting concept, because again, going back in time, in the 80s and 90s, the weaver service centers around the country were very vibrant setups, you know, which again, as I said, that was a time when things were changing around the country, and there were people from, you know, the craft artisans had started looking for an urban market for their product. And it was, the Weaver Service Center played a very, very important role in terms of assistance, in terms of design, in terms of you know, conducting workshops for introducing new dyes. Anytime artisans had problems, they could go to a Weaver Service Center, which was all around the country, and they became really vibrant centers. And also, they were very good places where designers could go to if you wanted to work in a certain area, you first went to a weaver center, who then introduced you to the weavers around in that area, and that's how this whole movement actually started in, I would say, in the 80s and 90s. And the Vishwakarma was was a catalyst in many ways. So I find that Tanera has started these weaver shalas, which I think is quite important. But it would be interesting to hear your journey and with Tanera. Tell us about it.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. And it's really a privilege to be sitting next to such ladies with such illustrious career in you know, promoting and preserving the rich heritage of our country, and really admire the work, ma'am, both of you have done in terms of reviving the, you know, the art and the craft of the country. I represent Tanera, and Tanera is the youngest brand from Titan Company, and it is in the women's ethnic wear space. Tanera, through its 50+ stores and online, we offer design differentiated saris, ready-to-wear kurtas, blouses, and these are made from pure and natural fibers and sourced from over 100 weaving clusters of the country. And we celebrate and really aim to preserve the rich textile crafts of our rich country, and we also try to bring the best of India under one roof. So we are working with weavers right from Srinagar down south to Arni, right from Ajrak, we artisans from Bhuj right up to you know, in Assam. So we are working across the length and breadth of the country, and we are very proud of bringing the best of you know, art of sari weaving to our customers across the country. When we started off Tanera, and we started off in 2017, and when we visited the weaving clusters, we were really very sad to see the pathetic state of affairs that the weavers were in, the kind of pit looms that they were working on, and you know, there was no ventilation, there was no lighting, proper lighting, or even they didn't have proper washrooms. It was very pathetic. They would weave there and they would also sleep there and they would eat there. So it really moved us, and we felt that we should do something about it. And we did. We were actually doing something like this in our jewelry segment through our Karigar parks, where we have proper, places of work for our karigars in jewelry. So what we did is we created this infrastructure for them to really work and take pride in their work. So we also uplifted their design capabilities through our designers, and we provided them with a workplace which is very hygienic and which is there's a lot of ventilation, proper lighting, washrooms, pantry, and also where there is a pride. They really feel that pride of working there. So that's something which we bring, and we've opened so far 10 such Vivashalas, and we plan to open approximately 7 to 10 every year. So we hope to have 50 Vivashalas in the next three years.
Do you absorb all the production of all the weavers who work in these shalas?
Yes, the best thing, I think I didn't talk about it, is that we haven't really entered into any sort of a contract with the weavers. I mean, they're free to work with anyone. So we have not mandated that they should be working only with us. And yes, we do give them enough work, though, so to make sure that they have work. And yes, we do, whatever work we do give to them, we absorb, we buy everything from them. Yes.
So everything is made per order?
Yes, it's made per order. And
so the production that happens at the weavers' shalas are what feeds the shops?
Not only that, because we have only 10, and we are working with about 12,000 weavers and artisans. So it's just an initiative that we've started. But we will continue to drive this. It will be very difficult to have all our production coming from Vivashalas. Right now it's less than 5%.
Right, yeah.
How many stores do you have?
We have 50 plus stores now, ma'am.
Well, we've had conversations about many different aspects about the sector through the morning. But one of the things that really worries me about the sector is this impatient capital. You see, there is a lot of new players and a lot of capital being pumped into it, but very often capital becomes impatient. Also, a lot of the new players come from backgrounds of understanding industrial production, whereas the handcrafted sector is quite different. The pace of work is different. Over the years, I have seen that a lot of sampling gets done on the handloom, and because of this impatience, it's converted into handloom and into powerloom and passed off as handloom. So I find that this is a very, it's not that the handlooms are going to be able to feed everyone. There is a place for handloom, there is a place for powerloom production, and different kinds of production methods. But I think it's the ethics of it to begin with. But, and so powerloom should be sold as powerloom. That's a separate conversation. But what I'm really interested in is how do we deal with it? My concern is how do we deal with this impatient capital that is now in this sector?
I think that's really very interesting. But I think it's also an opportunity, because one of the luckiest things about the Indian marketplace is that it is so multi-layered. Yes, you have people who want something and they want it very fast and they want it very cheap. And a lot of these big players who are coming into the market do have this concept that in order to make money, you have to sell lots. I think we have to now try and educate them to make them understand that if Indian crafts are going to survive, and powerloom will always be there, and the mill fabric will always be there, because again our consumers have price points which do not always enable them to buy handloom. And they may not even want it for many of the purposes that they use fabric. But there is this layer, and it's quite a huge thing. I mean, India is supposed to have some more millionaires than any other country in the world. And there's also handloom and handcraft are still not that expensive and exorbitant, unlike, say, crafts in Japan, as an example. So I think we have to make people understand that what is so wonderful about Indian crafts and Indian textiles is the variety and diversity. You don't want them to make thousands and thousands of meters of stuff which is exactly the same, and then have to dump it because next year there's a new color and there's a new design which has come in. We've all seen what's happened in the West. I mean, they're dumping more clothes than they are actually consuming them. It's because fashion is so fast and so changing and so fickle, and yet the industrial process means that nothing becomes commercially viable unless you can make it into multiples of thousands. But here you make a sari, you can change the color every few meters, you can change the motif every few meters, and so everybody can have an exclusive product, which in the West, to be able to say that this is exclusive, you have to be a multi-millionaire. Here, even a college student can actually buy a dupatta which is unique to them. And I think this is the message that we have to play. We are always talking about, because we have these millions of craftspeople, we tend to think that they should be making millions of identical products. Not at all. We need to sell it as each piece being unique, each piece being made exclusively for you. And how much more interesting a society we are if we practice that, instead of all just wearing blue jeans and Benetton t-shirts.
I would take that further to you, Mr. Narayan, in the sense that you already talked with these large number of stores, and as yours, sorry. To you, Mr. Narayan, you're talking already of multiple stores, and the numbers in time will increase. How do you see this? Do you see this as a challenge? How do you see, is it the same when you order, say, a handloom sari? Would you order 5,000 of the same? What is the parameter you would, because I have noticed in the sectors that I work that very often people come, people who, merchandisers who come with a foot ruler to measure whether the motif is, a millimeter upar niche, or there is a difference slightly in shade. I do believe in quality, absolutely. But how does one, it's a challenge, to feed 100 stores of a similar, because you would want a similar sari in each store. How do you look at this? Because each person is each sari could be different, but you still have to manage, within that same price point from the same region. How do you do that?
So yeah, I'll tell you more about how we source the saris. So we have, as I said, we are working with over 100 clusters, and we have our designers who are, some of them are based out of a head office, but a lot of them are also based out of the clusters. We have a sourcing team also, which is sitting in the clusters. They're based out of the clusters, and even the quality person is based out of the clusters. So it's not that, and the quality team and the sourcing team, they're working very closely with the weavers and meeting them almost on a daily basis. So we are making sure that, we don't reject the whatever they have created. And we are a bit tolerant about, because it's handloom, you cannot have all the, we cannot produce, it's not a cookie cutter where, you have a mold and then you keep running it and you get exactly the same copies. So we are absolutely mindful of that. And just because our team is working very closely with the weavers, they're almost meeting them on a daily basis, guiding them, what could get rejected in case if it's not meeting quality parameters. So we are trying to keep our rejections very, very low. And our whole effort is to also upgrade the design capabilities of our weavers. It's not just that we are using them to produce for us.
Yeah, because I think product development is an equally important quality and product development, because it's not just the marketing. I think it goes hand in hand, and we need to put in a lot. How much time do we have? Do you want to take questions? Would you like to ask?
Everyone is recovering from their lunch. I always end up in the after lunch section, wherever I go.
Are there questions?
We have a video to play more about our Weavershala, so if you have a couple of minutes, we could just show that. It's ready? Can we play that?
Do we have time for that? Or?
Banaras, the city of lights, the sacred land of silks, home to a 1,000-year-old living tradition, the Banarsi sari.
बनारस की साड़ी की जो विशेषताएं हैं, डिज़ाइन की, टेक्सचर की, धागे की, टेक्निक की, इतना विविध है, तो इतने सारे टेक्सचर्स एक ही जगह पे इतने बुनकरों द्वारा और किसी भी क्लस्टर में नहीं है.
Once upon a time, a fabric of the royals, the Banarsi sari today adorns every bride on her special day. The art of hand weaving is passed on from generation to generation. It provides livelihood to around 20,000 families in Banaras. Till date, an authentic hand-woven Banarsi sari is unmatched by any machine-made fabric. An artisan painstakingly takes up to 9 months to weave one sari to perfection. With changing times, the weavers have been able to adapt to modern designs, but their state of infrastructure remains the same.
हम कलाकारों के जीवन में जो पहले से काम करते आए थे, हम लोग गड्ढे का पीट लूम चलाते थे, शरीर गड्ढे में रहता था, आधा ऊपर रहता था.
Poor working conditions, looms that have not kept pace, all these have made the profession less and less appealing to the younger generation. Power looms are gradually replacing this traditional craft, the pride of Banaras. It is to sustain and revive this art form that Tanaira has created Weavershala. Creating a new ecosystem, upgrading infrastructure, new age frame looms with comfortable seating, providing a hygienic workplace, adequate lighting, equipping the eyes for better sight, uniforms, identity cards, improving efficiency.
जैकार्ड जो पहले एकदम लटकता था, वो काफ़ी हिलता था, उससे उनको हमेशा एक डंडा लगा के सेट करना पड़ता था. ये सब उसमें से हट गया. तो मेहनत कम लगेगा तो ज़्यादा समय दे सकता है, उत्पादन बढ़ेगा तो उसका रोजगार भी बढ़ेगा.
Weavershala is an endeavor to revive the authentic craft, restore tradition, sustain livelihoods, and empower a new generation to create an heirloom for another. This is just the beginning. Soon, Weavershalas will be set up in every craft cluster of India. Tanaira and Weavershala, together preserving tradition.
Hello. Just two questions, actually. I'm Geeta from Tisser Artisans Trust. Two questions, a little interlinked. The first one is that I belong to South myself, and I have been to Kanchipuram. I go there very regularly. I've actually gone to the weaver's house where the weaving happens. He has got the loom inside this, literally, probably not even a 10 by 10 size room. That's where they live. You're absolutely right. They live there, they work there, they make it there. It probably takes them, there's power cuts, so that delays the process, but over maybe 6 months or 3 months to take out one sari at a time. And that cost that he gets, what the revenue he gets, or whatever he's paid for that sari, one particular sari, is nothing compared to what it sells in the marketplace. It finally is taken through a whole chain of people till it comes to the marketplace, and what he gets for that sari, for his hard work, maybe 1,000 rupees or less than that, and what it sells is for, say, 30,000 rupees, because I bought a sari as well. So I want to understand why is there such a disparity between the cost and the end. I do understand there's marketing, there is transportation, there is a whole lot of logistics reasons, but does it then become from 1,000 to a 30,000 still doesn't make a lot of financial sense to me. That is one question I have. Is that normal, and why does it happen? Because if the price is sort of, proper enough, then I think the purchasing, the consumers also will willingly buy more. Today, a lot of consumers want, as that is the second part of the question, is the authenticity. That because I can't afford an authentic Banarasi sari, I would, okay, it's an occasion, I still want it, I love it, so I'll buy the so-called duplicate of it, which is probably machine made. But that's because I can't afford that 30,000. But is the 30,000 a genuine figure? Because the loom, certainly the guy who is making it, to when it comes to the marketplace, it seems to have taken a vast jump. That is one question. The second...
You've understood that you want to...
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in a way that, that's also a challenge for us. How do we keep reducing our selling price? And we have been able to, take off about 20% from our MRP in the last 18 months. And that has come not by negotiating with the weaver and further, reducing his income, but that has come through a lot of optimization initiatives, a lot of cost-cutting initiatives where we were actually wasting. See, I don't know what other brands are paying or other, suppliers pay the weavers, but we pay them a fair wage. And we pay them the fastest than the other players do, because we ran a survey, it was a third-party survey that we ran with all the weavers that we were working with. And they rated us that 75% of them rated us that they want to work and they're happy to work with Taynara as a #1 brand for them. So we don't feel guilty about, that whether we are paying them fair wage or we are paying them fast enough. I think where we have to really work is to make sure that we are doing a lot of process improvements after the sari has been procured so that we can keep the prices low. And we are very mindful of this, ma'am, and we've been able, as I said, we've been able to reduce our prices by 20%, and we are going to further reduce it basis a lot of other initiatives that are already in place. And as, ma'am, you rightly said that why a customer would buy a handloom product versus a powerloom product, and it's also to do with the price tag. And all our endeavor is to reduce the gap between a handloom product and a powerloom product.
Why do we need to do that? I don't think there is a competition between. I just feel ethically, sorry, I'm breaking you in, but a handloom product should cost what it needs to cost.
Yeah.
I don't think is cost really a real matter. Yeah, I think we need to create new narratives for the craft sector and honest stories around how and why, how it is produced. And then people appreciate that the effort, because the artisans need to earn more than what they do today. And the only way they can do it if we can give that value for the work that people do with their hands. So I personally feel it would be a huge mistake if we try and compete with the, they're different products and they can be different price range and
But I think you're right in a way, but what we also feel is that customers are really not aware. And there's a lot of education that we need to do, and we are doing a lot of that in our stores. There is so much storytelling that we are doing, and which is absolutely required for a handloom product, because every sari has a story. And we are working a lot with clusters and with the art forms that are almost forgotten and going extinct, like Chamba Rumal. Now, this is an art form of Chamba in Himachal Pradesh. And we are working with the artisans weavers of Chamba Rumal.